What up? It's your boy Red coming to you live everywhere from the Danger Room at Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters to the Green Lagoon down in Krakoa. You know, anytime you get mutants together, it's gonna be some messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDDD. Let's go. It's the messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDDD. We gon' talk about Logan, Gene, and Scott, and how we really bossed up when he got with Emma Frost. We gon' talk about Storm, powerless and all, and how she still kick ass in every brawl. We gon' talk about Maddie, last name Pryor, and how she set both X teams on fire. We gon' talk about the days of future past, from the 80s to the 90s to Krakoa at last. The mutants bring the drama like a telenovela. So this the hottest ticket since the Hellfire Gala. It's the messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDDD. Let's go. It's the messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDDD. Let's go. What up, y'all? This is your boy Omega Red, OMEGAREDDD, and welcome to another episode of the Messy Mutant Tea podcast, where we'll be taking a look at some of my favorite issues of Uncanny X-Men, namely from the Chris Claremont run, because that's the run I grew up with, and that's the one that's the most special to me, and we'll be focusing on some of the shady, messy stuff the X-Men had going on, because you know Chris Claremont kept the drama going. Now, in the first episode, Supersized Spectacular, we took a deep dive into Rogue and her villainous history, her redemption arc, everything that she did on the path to becoming one of the most beloved X-Men characters that we have today. And one of the issues we took a look at was Uncanny X-Men 171, where Rogue joined the team. So I figured, you know what? Let's keep a good thing going. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this episode, we're going to be starting by taking a look at Uncanny X-Men 172, Wolverine's Wedding. Or as I like to call it, the Japan Adventure. Or Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Because baby, everybody and their mama tried to crash this wedding. Now, you may have read some of these issues before, but baby, you ain't never read them with me. So buckle up, X-fans. Let's take a deep dive into Wolverine, Japan, the Hand, Mariko, Silver Samurai, Viper, the X-Men. There's a lot going on in these two issues, and I'm ready to get it started. So let's go. So anybody who has at least a little bit of knowledge about the X-Men will recognize Wolverine. I mean, he's one of the most popular characters that's associated with the X-Men. He's known for being savage, a beast, having these crazy sharp claws, this adamantium skeleton. He is a savage fighter. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does ain't very nice. Those are his words. So that's the side of Wolverine most people associate with his personality. But if you're an X fan, you also know that there is a softer side to Wolverine. There's a side that loves beauty, loves friendships. He pretty much values and loves anyone who's able to see past that beastly nature into the man inside, because that's his struggle. He struggles with, am I a beast? Am I a man? Am I a man? Am I a beast? And anyone like Kurt, or especially Jean or Aurora or Pete or anyone, Kitty, anyone who's close to him who's able to see past that into who he really is as a person and how good his heart is, he'll go to the end of the earth for you. So I think that's important to know about the character, because we see a very different side of Wolverine in these issues. And I think it's important to understand how we got here. So before we even crack open issue 172 of the Uncanny X-Men, I did a deep dive into the Wolverine series from the 80s written by Chris Claremont and the legendary Frank Miller. Both of them are legendary. And I had never read the series before. I knew of the series and I had read like issues here and there, but I really wanted to get into him and Mariko's relationship. I went back even further and read Uncanny X-Men 118, which is where he first met Mariko. And the X-Men were coming from a mission in the Savage Land where they were stranded. And they were aboard a cargo ship and it was sailing towards Japan. And they were like, well, we need to get home. Let's try and contact Sunfire. And anyone who knows anything about Sunfire is that man has an attitude. He stays on his high horse. So I was reading the issue like, well, this can go either way. He might help y'all. He might not, but we'll see how it goes. So they went and they did enlist the help of Sunfire to help get back to New York. And in the interim, Wolverine met Sunfire's cousin, which is Lady Mariko. And she's gentle, she's beautiful. She was in a garden, just admiring the blossoms. Kind of just representing all the serenity that Wolverine never had in his life. And he was immediately smitten with her. And she was immediately smitten with him too, because he was a little dangerous. And I guess she wanted to take a walk on the wild side. Well, baby, there you go. So that was their initial meeting in Uncanny X-Men 118, and which is a great read. So if anyone's never read that, I recommend you go read it. They had an amazing epic adventure in Japan, and it kind of laid the foundation for Wolverine and Mariko's relationship. And they were in Japan, I think, from Uncanny X-Men 118 to I think 120. And as they're boarding the plane from Japan to go back home to New York, so they think they're going back home to New York, they actually went head on into another epic battle, which I won't get into, but it was a really, really good read. It's Uncanny X-Men 120 and 121. So please check it out if you haven't. So the X-Men had been through it. They had went straight from the Savage Land to Japan, fighting Moses Magnum with the help of Sunfire, to boarding the plane and thinking they're going home to New York to finally rest and recoup. But it did not turn out like that. It ended up being very messy. So anyway, as they're boarding the plane, they're like, where's Wolverine? Man, Wolverine was in the parking lot getting his Mac on. You hear me? Lady Mariko was sitting in a limousine because she has money. Like, her family is one of the richest, most noble families in Japan. So Lady Mariko got stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks. So she was sitting there in the limousine, and she's actually thinking, like, because she had been through the battle with the X-Men too. Like, she got some bumps and bruises in this battle. So it's not like she just was sitting on the sidelines, and Wolverine saved her a couple times. So that just sealed the deal. So she's actually sitting there in the limousine thinking, like, wow, I'm going to miss the X-Men. And especially, but before she can finish her thought, there's a tap on the window. And so she rolls it down, and there's Wolverine, and he hands her this flower. It's a white chrysanthemum. And so she's all giggling and all just heart eye emojis, and so is he. And so it just really was like a sweet note for them to end on as they left Japan. So that was the premise of me going into the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller Wolverine series. So as that series opens, Wolverine is tracking down like a killer. And the killer in the mountains, and the killer has left behind bodies of like women, children, men. Like, this killer is just savage. So as Wolverine is closing in on the killer, you realize it's a huge grizzly bear. And so he wrestles with the grizzly bear. And he takes it out. Come to find out, there was a hunter who was illegally hunting grizzly bears, and his arrow was tipped in some type of poison or drug that kind of just sent the bear. The bear was Cocaine Bear. Okay, let's just say that. He went crazy. And so that's like a little intro. So after he wraps that up, he's on a plane to go home to Professor Xavier's Institute, and he gets all of his mail, and he has stacks of mail, but in the mail are all the letters he sent to Lady Mariko. They were returned unopened. And he's like, well, what's going on with this? Like, she wasn't answering any of his calls. This was the 80s, so he might have sent a few telegrams. I don't know how that worked back then. But he just was like, okay, what's going on? She's just ghosting me. She's icing me out. Like, there's something going on. So he hops on a plane, first plane to Japan. He's like, I got to go see what's up with my baby. And so he's looking through all of the, the letters and these nice pictures that he has of her. And so he lands in Japan, and as soon as he lands, one of his old liaisons, his contacts there in Japan, wrangles him up and just like pulls him over to the side. They in the hotel room. He's like, look, Logan, word is out. The block is hot. People know you're in Japan, and people are not happy about it. Because, Logan has a reputation, and Japan is one of his old stomping grounds. So he's raised hell there many times before. So as soon as he walked through the airport, they were on high alert, like, oh no, we got to call somebody. And so his friend is like, look, I know you want to see Mariko. If she has iced you out, and if she's not answering your calls, just please respect her. Like, there has to be some sort of reason. And he's like, Logan, please don't go tearing this city up. Because if you go tear the city up, they might have to send me after you, and I don't want to have to do that. So Logan was like, look, you do what you got to do. I'm going to find my lady. So before Logan can even walk out the door, his friend just blurts out, Logan, she's married. And Logan is like, what? So come to find out, Lady Mariko's father, Lord Shingen, who has been dead or missing or just out of the picture for most of her life, pops back up. And he is now a crime lord. He's into all kind of shady, underhanded dealings. And this man had got into some business dealing with another man and promised this man Lady Mariko's hand in marriage in exchange for the business deal. Now, I know other cultures have other things going on, but I'm like, damn, like she's like literally property. So long story short, she had to marry this man out of obligation to her father. And Logan's friend was trying to warn him in a nice way, like, bruh, if she not answering your calls, if she's not answering your letters, trust me, it's probably hurting her just as much as it's hurting you, because she really does love Logan. But, you know, honor is a huge thing in Japan, and her father showed up and this was the deal, so she had to see it through. Do y'all think that stopped Logan? He was like, nope, I'm going straight to the house. I'm going straight to the crib and find out what's going on. So he goes to this great big palatial mansion. And of course, he makes it past the dogs. He makes it past the guards, and he's creeping around in the house. And Mariko is in this like throne room, and there's this huge, huge statues and beautiful flowers. And she's just kind of on her knees, maybe meditating or praying. And Logan enters the room and he's like, Mariko, what's going on? And she's like, please just go away. And he goes up to approach her and he turns her around and she turns around. And when I tell you, her face is black and blue and beat up. Her lip is busted. Her eyes black. And Logan is like, whoa, what the hell? Like, who did this to you? And it's her new husband. Her new husband is putting hands on her. And that sent Logan over the top. Like, even as a reader, like, the character is so gentle. She's written in such a beautiful way. Just to see her battered and bloodied and bruised like that, it was like, wow, that's a lot. And so her new husband shows up, who is this weird beta looking dude. And, Wolverine almost takes his head off. Wolverine is the best he is at what he does, and what he does ain't so nice. So he was about to put it on this dude. And Mariko stopped him, like, Logan, please don't, you're just going to make things worse. Please just go. I have to do this out of duty to my father. So long story short, Logan is like, well, I need to see your daddy. Where is he at? Like, we need to talk. And so Logan and Lady Mariko's father, Lord Shingen, who is a piece of work, they battle. They battle, and Lord Shingen is making it look like, oh, this is a friendly battle. You say you love my daughter. Let's see if you're worthy. So they're using wooden swords. Ha! Ha! But every chance he gets, he is hitting Logan at like a pressure point. Ha! Like really trying to take Logan out. And Logan is like, okay, well, this is supposed to be a friendly battle, but you're really taking these shots at me. So Logan pops his claws. And on the outside looking in, it looks like that's probably one of the most disrespectful, least honorable things that he can do, because this is supposed to be a quote unquote fun battle. So he's like, damn, like now Mariko is looking at me like I'm a cheater. I'm not worthy. Maybe her father is right, that this American dog has no right to even look his daughter's way. And so Lord Shingen beats Wolverine. Like, he beats the crap out of Wolverine. I'm reading this like, Logan, if you don't get your ass up, throw all the rules out the window. Like, come on, let's get it popping. But out of respect for her father, I guess he held back, and he just got beat up, thrown out on the street. Mariko just looked the other way like, oh, this is the last thing I wanted. So Logan is in a bad spot, at the end. And this is all in the first issue. So Logan is in a very bad spot at the end of the first issue. So I won't go too much more into detail about what goes on in this first arc of the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller Wolverine series from the 80s. Because I'll talk a whole hour just on that, and we'll never get to Uncanny X-Men 172. But some other really important things happen in this series that set the scene for Uncanny X-Men 172. One of the really important things that happens is at the beginning of issue 2, Logan is literally sleeping on the streets of Japan. Like, his morale is low, his heart is broken, he's beaten up, he's just not in a good mental space, so he's down and out. And these Japanese dudes, these thugs, come and try to rob him. They have pipes and, broken bottles, and he's not really in a position to defend himself. Any other day he could have taken them out with no problem. But in his current state, he wasn't even really in that mindset. So Logan is saved by this mysterious woman who will become a very important friend of the X-Men going forward in the X-Men books for years to come. And her name is Yukio. And Yukio is called the Wild One because she is wild. And she literally is a ninja trained assassin. She loves to live on the edge. She loves to flirt with death and danger. And like, the higher the stakes are for her, the more she laughs, the better she loves it. She was watching Wolverine. I won't get into why she was watching Wolverine, because if anyone's going to read the first arc of this series, I don't want to spoil it. But she was watching him. She had her eye on him because, let's be honest, Wolverine is her kind of guy. And under any other circumstances, she would be his kind of woman, but his heart belongs to someone else. So she did come and she saved him from the street thugs. Yukio takes him back to her place, nurses him back to health. She's amazed at how like his wounds are healing up really fast. So he, lets her know he's a mutant and all of his abilities. And so they bond and grow closer. But like in the middle of all that, they're attacked by the Hand, which are ninja trained assassins. So Wolverine is just all over the place. He's like, there's this situation with Mariko. Her father hates me. She's in an abusive marriage. I know she still loves me. I'm saved by this woman, Yukio, who I am attracted to, but my heart really is somewhere else. The ninjas are after me. Like, it's a lot going on. Wolverine kind of comes around to being his old self. I mean, after that battle with the Hand, he's in there slicing and dicing them up and getting his swagger back. And Yukio's, she has her shuriken that she uses and different weapons, so she's really good with what she does. So they kind of like give each other that life that they need. So they spend drunken nights out in Tokyo and having bar fights and fights in the alleyways. And, Logan kind of gets back to his old self. So that's one important thing that happens. I mean, but Yukio is very attracted to him, and she does try to come on to him a few times, to which Logan is just like, my mind is not there. Like, any other day, any other place, any other time, it would be a go. But right now, and she can't understand that. I mean, she's a woman, so, you reject her, so she's going to be a little salty about that. But, she does understand because she knows of Mariko. She knows of Mariko's family because, again, they are one of the noblest and wealthiest families in Japan. And there's also a spoiler there that I don't want to give away as to why she knows them. Also, another important thing that happens is, very important thing that happens is through a series of events and things being uncovered, Logan ends up slaying Mariko's father, Lord Shingen. And there's a lot of things that lead up to that. So really, it's a really good series. Even if you just read the first 4 issues, you can get a much broader picture of what we're going to talk about in Uncanny X-Men 172. So he ends up slaying Lord Shingen, and Mariko's there. She sees it. But so many things had taken place leading up to this event that she told Logan, if you hadn't killed him, I would have done it myself. And then she said after that, she would have committed the Japanese ritual suicide, of honor, because she killed her father. So then she would in turn turn around and kill herself. But she didn't have to go through all that because Logan killed him for her. So like I said, there's so many things that lead up to that. Her husband is no longer an issue. I won't, kind of go into that either. So read the series or even just the first 4 issues. It's really good. It will answer a lot of questions. But at the end of that series, Logan and Mariko are in a great place. It actually ends with a scene from the X-Men. They get a letter from Wolverine and he's explaining about his trip to Japan, how everything's going. And at the end of the letter, they open it up and it's the wedding invitation for Logan and Mariko. So the X-Men are happy. They're, celebrating. They're about to go to Japan for Wolverine's wedding. But like I said, there are a lot of gaps that I left out because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's going to read it, but it's really good and you'll understand it once you read it. But they do end in a happy place. Because if I keep talking about that particular series, those 4 issues, we will never get to Uncanny X-Men 172. Because when it comes to X-Men comics, I can talk all day. That's probably why my friend told me I needed a podcast. So that was just a little bit from the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller Wolverine series from the 80s. Just a little synopsis of the first 4 issues, because I feel like it will help give a richer experience, a richer listening experience to what we're going to talk about in Uncanny X-Men 172, which we will get to right now. Now, before we even crack open issue 172 of the Uncanny X-Men, I just want to take a look at the cover for a minute, because it's a very cool cover. It's very rare that we get to see Logan on the cover of an X-Men comic smiling or looking happy. And on this cover, he's even blushing. So I'm like, I guess that's what love would do for you. But you can just feel the love between him and Mariko radiating off the page. They both just look so happy and so proud and just so in love. And I love the way he's holding her hand in his. It's very delicate. But man, somebody has stuck a sword straight through this image of Logan. So that lets you know off the bat, somebody is not happy with this union. And it's blocking part of the invitation, but I can only assume the whole invitation reads, His Imperial Majesty Hiroshito, Emperor of Japan, requests your presence at the wedding of Lady Mariko of Clan Yashida to Logan, RSVP. And then Logan has written in, hey, Elf, don't forget the beer, ! But I'm pretty sure Japan has some amazing beers, but I guess Logan wanted some of that Budweiser, that Coors, that Miller Lite. He wanted something straight from the good old US of A. And I'm pretty sure Nightcrawler obliged him. And this Paul Smith art, oh man, it's beautiful. Like when I think of my definitive X-Men artist, I always defer to the artists that were drawing the X-Men when I grew up, which were Paul Smith, John Byrne, John Romita Jr., Mark Silvestri. Like those are my top favorite X-Men artists because their images of the X-Men are iconic to me. Like they automatically take me back to my childhood. And I have my modern day artists that I like as well. Like I love Russell Dauterman. Like he is amazing. Like to me, there is no other Emma than the one Russell draws. Like when he started drawing Emma Frost, I was like, pack it up. That's it. It's over for the rest of these artists because his Emma Frost, baby, is the Emma Frost. And I love Lucas Wernick is amazing. Pepe Larraz, Terry Dodson, Jim Lee. And I might get drugged for this, but I like Greg Land's art too. Like I know he gets a whole bunch of crap for tracing, but I liked his art as well, during the Utopia era. So I have my favorites, but it's nothing like the classic X-Men artists to me because they just represent the era that I grew up in. And Paul Smith beautifully illustrates both of these issues. They're beautifully written by the legendary Chris Claremont, who, by the way, a little side story, I was promoting the first 2 episodes of the podcast on Facebook. And a lot of these Facebook groups are a little funny about you going in there promoting your podcast. They have so many rules. I mean, I understand people might not have control of a lot of things in their life, but baby, they got control of those Facebook groups. I guess it makes people feel important. But there's one called the Chris Claremont Fan Club, and it's a really cool group. And I posted about the first couple issues of the podcast, and I talked about Rogue, and I talked about how much I love Chris Claremont. And I said something to the effect of, with over 60 years of action, drama, and relationships, we have a lot to get into. So join me on the podcast, or something to that effect. And do you know, Chris Claremont himself commented on that post? Man, I was over the moon. Like I was smiling from ear to ear, like you couldn't tell me nothing. And he just said, he was very flattered and, he was blushing. He was like, I only represent about 20 years of those 60 years of X-Men history. And then I just replied to him, I was like, but the 20 years that you represent are iconic, and they help raise so many generations of X-Men fans, you know, and I know he's got to feel that love because his name is synonymous with X-Men. I mean, like, come on. But I was so happy. Even now talking about it, like I'm smiling from ear to ear. So that was just my little story where Chris Claremont replied on my post about the Messy Mutant Tea podcast. So Chris Claremont, if you're listening, man, this is all for you. Like, thank you so much. We could never thank you for the stories, the creativity, the hard work, the imagination, the blood, sweat, and tears, everything that went into building these characters and these comics. Like, it has shaped so many generations, and I just hope you feel that love. So with that being said, let's jump right into what he wrote about Logan, Mariko, Japan, the Hand, the X-Men, all of the different factors that went into creating Wolverine's wedding. So as we open the issue, we see a nightscape of Tokyo. So the whole city is lit up. It's very energetic. There's a lot going on. And we see this huge, tall building. And Logan's thoughts are the upper class Meguro district. The building stands 60 stories tall, 55 commercial, the rest a single luxury apartment. It's where the daimyo of Clan Yoshida stays whenever he's in town. The daimyo was like the head of the clan. 10 weeks ago, upon Yoshida Shingen's death, that title passed to his firstborn, his daughter Mariko. I'm her lover, her champion, and in 5 days I become her consort. A man should have his friends beside him at his wedding. These are mine, the X-Men. But what that dialogue box doesn't tell you is that 10 weeks ago, Wolverine is the one that killed Lord Shingen. That's why all the power, the wealth, the honor, and the title of head of Clan Yoshida is now passed on to his daughter Mariko. But we know that because we took a brief look at the Frank Miller and Chris Claremont Wolverine series, where all that drama and all that messiness went down between Wolverine, Lord Shingen, Mariko, her abusive husband, Yukio. So we kind of have a backstory. That's why I wanted to talk about that, so we can kind of see where we are now and where we came from. And I can only imagine it's a very different Mariko as issue 172 picks up, because I mean, she went from not knowing whether her father was alive or dead to him reappearing in her life to being this crime lord, bringing shame upon the family. Like, there was a lot that went on in that series that you can go back and take a look at, but it was pretty heavy. And then to see Wolverine kill him and say not only if Wolverine hadn't killed him, she would have done it herself, and then committed the ritual act of suicide in honor of, slaying her father. So it's just about us a lot. I can imagine there's a very mature, almost, I don't want to say hardened, but Mariko's seen some things. When we first met her back in X-Men 118, she was a shy girl. She was very timid, very submissive. But now she's had to step up to the plate and take the responsibility of being now the head of this clan onto her shoulders. So the next scene we see is the X-Men arriving to the penthouse. They've been traveling. They went from the United States to Japan, so they're tired. They're excited to see Wolverine. And Nightcrawler's putting down some luggage. And Wolverine's standing there in his kimono with Mariko beside him with his arms stretched wide open. He's happy to see his family. And Colossus goes, "Wolverine, it's good to see you, Tavares. We have been apart too long." And Kitty goes, "What a trip, Logan. We had an entire 747 all to ourselves. The pilot said it was the plane the Emperor uses." And Wolverine goes, "My fiance has clout. Welcome to Japan. I told y'all Lady Mariko got stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks. She is loaded." And so Nightcrawler embraces Wolverine. He goes, "Are you well, my friend? Your letters were terse as always, but I managed to read between the lines. It sounded like you had a pretty rough time." He's talking about the letters Wolverine wrote home to the X-Men, telling them what happened in the events of the Wolverine miniseries and Mariko's father and how he had to kill him and how she was in another marriage. So he wrote home telling the X-Men all of this stuff and then sent the wedding invitation. And Wolverine goes, "There were moments, Elf." And Nightcrawler just goes, "I like the outfit. It makes you look nearly civilized." And so this next scene is funny. This is the first time that Wolverine is seeing Lockheed. And Lockheed is Kitty's pet dragon. Lockheed saved Kitty from the Brood in X-Men 166. And he's a small, little fiery, feisty, fire-breathing dragon. And so he became her pet. Well, that's how we saw him in the beginning, but we know later on in later years, Lockheed ended up to be a lot more than just a pet. But him and Kitty are inseparable. And so she has him like around her shoulders. and Wolverine goes, what the heck is that around Kitty's neck? And Nightcrawler goes, it's her pet dragon. And Wolverine's like, Customs must have loved that. And Lockheed doesn't really like Wolverine. He starts to hiss. And Kitty goes, they didn't say a word. And Lockheed isn't a pet. Nightcrawler, he's my friend. And so everyone gets settled in, and Mariko comes up to Wolverine and she goes, Logan-san, one of the X-Men remains in the Genkan. Will you not invite her in? And the Genkan is like a Japanese word for foyer. So all the team is there. We got Colossus, we got Nightcrawler, we got Kitty, we got Storm, we got Lockheed. But there's one person that's just remaining back, hanging back, not feeling comfortable. And y'all know who it is. It's our girl Rogue. And Wolverine goes, in his mind, I'm a mutant, just like all the X-Men, born with special, unique powers and abilities. In my case, among other things, I have enhanced physical senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell. I knew who was there the instant she entered. And then we cut to a scene of Rogue, standing in the doorway looking real timid, dressed all in green and looking like a big Keebler elf. Like, this outfit is way green. Let's just say every shade of green there is, she got it on. But Paul Smith is so amazing with like facial expressions and gestures. Like, her body language is so standoffish and unsure. Her eyebrows are raised. Just like she's biting her lip. She's fidgeting with her hands. You could tell she's just very uncomfortable. And just to be able to convey that through one image, that's amazing. And so Wolverine goes, if it were up to me, Miko, I'd cut her heart out. Now, mind you, the last time Wolverine saw Rogue, they were punching each other through walls at the Pentagon. He hasn't seen her since. And in his mind, he goes, the kid's name is Rogue. We tussled a while back at the Pentagon. And before that, she nearly killed a good friend of mine. I don't mind being used as a punching bag, comes with the territory. But what she did to Carol Danvers, I'll never forget it or forgive. So Logan's all up in arms, and Storm goes, Logan, she is no longer our enemy. Professor Xavier has accepted her as an X-Man. And he goes, you agreed to that, Aurora? And she said, we all did. Now, here's where it could get a little messy, because we know Charles is a bald-headed scallywag, and the things that have come out about Professor Xavier in the past years, you don't know what Charles did. He might have got into their heads and influenced them to accept her as an X-Man. I'm not saying he did, but the stuff that we know about Charles now, he's not above going around in somebody's head and moving stuff around to suit his needs. So that's a thought that came to me as I was rereading this. I was like, did you really accept her? Was he in there playing around? Because we know Professor Xavier is good for that, you know. But anyway, that's a whole other episode we could get into on Charles, because that man is messy, messy, messy. So Wolverine just kind of like, he accepts it. He goes, figures. Any outfit that'll take me as a member will admit anyone. And here's where Mariko goes, you think too little of yourself, Wolverine, and I think you judge your comrades too harshly. Whatever your feelings, she is our guest, and as such, will be treated with all due courtesy and respect. And so Lady Mariko goes up to Rogue, she takes her hand, she welcomes her in, and she goes, welcome, Rogue-san. May your stay with us be a happy one. And Rogue goes, thank you, Lady Mariko. Like, this is the first time she's probably ever been extended any real kindness, because I have a feeling the X-Men were just tolerating her. Like, yeah, okay, Professor X says she's on the team, whatever. And I can imagine that was an uncomfortable flight. It's not a short flight from the United States to Japan, so I can imagine it was awkward. But Lady Mariko is the first one I can imagine that actually extends her a heartfelt kindness. So as we as we see this scene, we see it from an angle, like maybe across the street, and we see the tip of a blade. So we see that someone is watching them from one of the high rises across the street. So someone is watching the X-Men get settled in, and Wolverine is going, make yourselves comfortable. There are refreshments if you want it, or a bed if you want to crash. And Kitty goes, great idea. What day is this anyway? Did we gain or lose one crossing the international date line? Girl, anybody got time to be doing all that math? Just go to sleep. We'll figure that out later. So someone is watching them, and someone is watching them that doesn't have good intentions, because we see the tip of their blade. So the panel pans back, and it's none other than Silver Samurai. And Silver Samurai is a ninja trained assassin. He is a mutant. He has this force that can be channeled through his blade, and he's watching this. And in his mind, he goes, the bugs I planted are working perfectly. I can hear every word that's said across the way. The X-Men are exhausted from their journey, and they expect no trouble. Why should they? A wedding is a joyous occasion. If I strike tonight, they will be easy prey. Now, what we don't know at this point, some people may know, is that Mariko and the Silver Samurai are half brother, half sister. And the Silver Samurai is pissed because once Lord Shingen died, I guess he expected, since he was the son, albeit an illegitimate son, that maybe all the wealth and the title and the power would be transferred to him. But lo and behold, all the wealth, the title, and the honor went to Mariko. So he's got a problem with that. But in the distance, we can see a figure watching the Silver Samurai. So the Silver Samurai is watching the X-Men, but then there's somebody watching him too. So then the panel opens up and we see none other than the wild one, Yukio, who we met in the Wolverine, Frank Miller and Chris Claremont series. And we know Wolverine and Yukio had like a flirtation going on. They were the yin to each other's yang. They were both wild in the streets of Tokyo together, flirting and having bar fights. And she was the one that kind of got him back up on his feet after he was rejected by Lord Shingen and Mariko at that point. And so things left off a little bit tense between Logan and Yukio. I'm not going to say she double-crossed him, but there were some things she was keeping from him. But she did redeem herself in the end because she saved Lady Mariko's life, even though she really was jealous of Mariko. Do you know that crazy ex-husband of Mariko's? He was facing off against Wolverine, and he grabbed Mariko, put a gun to her head, and used her as a shield to try to get out of there. I was like, you son of a mother, what? But Yukio came up from the back and killed him, allowing Mariko to escape. So whatever bad blood there was between Wolverine and Yukio because he found out about this double cross, he let that slide because she did save Mariko. So he was like, we're even. So Yukio is watching the Silver Samurai. She's like that crazy ex-girlfriend you can't get rid of. You know what I'm saying? Like, she gonna be around somewhere lurking in the shadows, but this time, thank God she was. So her thought bubbles are, you've been on Wolverine's trail for days, Skulker. If he weren't so besotted with that bloodless porcelain doll, he'd have spotted you long ago. Lucky for him, no less for you, he has nothing to fear so long as I'm around. So she launches into an attack mid-air and she smashes Silver Samurai right in the face. Yeah! And she's thinking, he's a perfect target. I could have killed him easily. But now I prefer him alive for questioning. So she kicks him in the face, lands on her feet. Completely takes him off guard. He's like, who? And he turns around. She's like, uh-oh. And so Wolverine hears it. Again, he has enhanced senses, so he can hear a battle across the street. And he goes, that sound. And Nightcrawler's like, I didn't hear anything. He said, from the roof, next door, flesh on metal, a fighting kick. So you can't keep too much from Wolverine. And so Silver Samurai turns around and he towers over Yukio. And he said, I am the Silver Samurai girl. To attack me is death. And then Nightcrawler teleports Wolverine across the street. We hear the iconic BAMF, and we see an explosion of brimstone. And so he teleports Wolverine over to the rooftop where they were being watched from. And so Silver Samurai and Yukio are fighting, and he goes, my armor is proof against your strongest blows, and my energy blade can cut through anything. And so he's smashing up the rooftop around Yukio. She's ducking and dodging. And Wolverine and Nightcrawler are watching this. And Wolverine goes, what I tell you, grab the lady elf, make sure she's safe. The bruiser's mine. And Wolverine jumps from a rooftop down onto the Silver Samurai. He's towering over Yukio, and she goes, Logan-san. And Logan goes, fancy meeting you here, darling, as he's tussling with the Silver Samurai.
Ha! Ha!
And then Yukio goes, where else would I be? And Wolverine goes, how about an explanation? And she goes, ask him, not me. He's the villain. And then Silver Samurai goes, I'll give you the only answer you deserve, Gaijin, a coward's death. And he teleports and Logan falls right through him. And it says with that, the sucker disappears. He doesn't fall far though, because your boy Nightcrawler's there and saves him. And gets him back down to the rooftop. And then Nightcrawler goes, the woman, she's gone. And Logan goes, that's her style, pal. And Nightcrawler goes, should we try to find her? And Logan goes, nah, she's done her good deed for the day, elf. Let her go. And he goes, you speak as though you know her. And Wolverine, yeah, he knows her. He goes, yeah, name's Yukio. She considers herself a Ronin, a masterless samurai. She's good too, almost on par with me. So the next scene we see, I'm so glad we're getting to this part of the story. So for a few issues, I'll say maybe the previous 10 issues, and we talked about it a little bit on the previous episodes of the podcast, Storm has been going through like an emotional change. Storm is regal and beautiful and a goddess, and she has these amazing elemental powers. She's an omega level mutant. But with all of that comes huge responsibility, because Storm always has to keep her emotions in check. She has to be very serene, very calm, very controlled, because the weather reflects her emotions. So it started back, well, definitely when she battled Callisto. We talked about that on one of the episodes previously, where she battled Callisto for leadership of the Morlocks. And Callisto told her, no powers. If I feel a gust of wind, see a stray lightning bolt, we're going to kill Kitty, because Kitty was being held hostage. And so Aurora was like, fine. Like, people forget that even though there's this beautiful, serene side to Storm, she grew up as a thief on the streets of Cairo. She knows how to get done what she need to get done. And so she ended up stabbing Callisto through the heart. We talked about that previously. And several other acts like that of brutality have kind of like shocked the X-Men, because Nightcrawler went up to her and spoke to her about this, like, Storm, you know, were you aware that you stabbed Callisto through the heart? And Storm was like, yeah. She wasn't expecting that, and that's why I did it. So Nightcrawler had noted that she had started to turn a little cold, and Storm had started to go through like a identity crisis. You know, she's always been what people have expected her to be. She was an orphan early on. Both her parents got killed. That was what led her to being a thief on the streets of Cairo. She then became worshipped as a goddess in her land, because she could control the elements and bring the rain. And then Professor Xavier came to her like, you're not a goddess, you're a mutant. So now I need you to come with me. So she's been bounced really from one identity to the other. And it all just got to be too much. I mean, I'm pretty sure anyone out there is listening. Sometimes we can put ourselves in a box. And when we put ourselves in a box, sometimes it's hard to break out. You know, the world puts enough labels on people and expectations, and it's bad enough without us doing it ourselves. And so Storm found herself in a box, and anyone who knows Storm or the character of Storm knows she's claustrophobic. So that metaphorical box is starting to become too much for her, and she just feels the need to break out. So in this next scene, and this is the perfect thing, because this is like the cherry on top, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. So Yukio she's bouncing off the rooftop. She got away from Logan and Nightcrawler, because she just pops in and pops out and does what she pleases. And so she's bouncing from rooftop to rooftop to rooftop in the Tokyo skyline. And she slips. There's something slick on one of the rooftops, and so she slips, and she goes, my foot, I slipped, I'm falling. And so as she's saying that, she's falling face first, like stories from the top of this high rise, with a smile on her face, because we know Yukio is the wild one, and the closer it is to danger, the better she loves it. When all of a sudden, Storm swoops in and saves her, grabs her by the hand. And Yukio goes, by my ancestors. And Storm goes, do not be afraid, I shall not drop you. I am Storm. And Yukio goes, I know, friend of Logan's. So was I. And a lot more. Baby, Yukio is not letting that crush go. She got a thing for Logan. And thing for Storm too, but that doesn't come till years later. And so she goes, I was a friend of Logan's too once. What a ride. 1 in a million. I loved it. And so Yukio was spinning around and she's like having the time of her life despite almost having just died. Because if Storm hadn't swooped in and saved her, I'm pretty sure she would have saved herself somehow. And so Storm is looking at her like, you nearly died. And she said, that's what made the experience so exquisite. Death holds no terror for you. And then Yukio goes, life is the ultimate adventure, Wind Rider, and death the prize that awaits us all. Since it's inevitable, why worry about it? And then she flips away while saying, sayonara, Ororo-san, until we meet again. And so Storm is just left standing there looking like, this bitch is crazy. But then her thought bubbles are, the woman is mad. And yet I wish I could laugh so. So there's a part of Yukio that Storm envies. She sees Yukio just being carefree and throwing caution to the wind and just being completely free. And Storm yearns for that. She's never been able to have that. And we have started to see little things along the way that shows that if she don't bust free soon of this box of her own making, something is just going to give. So Storm meeting Yukio is such an important part of her journey, and it ushers in one of my favorite versions of Storm. I don't care what y'all say. The Storm that we are going to get coming up is my favorite version. So it's coming. I won't give too many spoilers, but her meeting Yukio is a life-changing pivotal moment for Storm. So she goes back to the penthouse and the X-Men are all sitting around like, okay, so what's going on with the Silver Samurai person? Why is he trying to kill us? What's going on? And Storm is debriefing them and she said, I recognize the man, Kunichio Harada, the Silver Samurai. He and his mistress Viper fought the New Mutants recently and killed one of them, Shian Koi Man. Was he following us, Logan? Or you? Is there a connection between him, you, and Mariko? And then Logan goes, maybe so. Mariko's dad, Shingen, used the clan as a power base from which he seized control of the Japanese underworld. He was an ambitious man. I doubt he'd be satisfied with that. He may have been working with Viper to expand his influence worldwide. And so as part of preparation for this episode, I did go back and read the New Mutants, issues 5, 6, and 7. Which, if anyone who doesn't know who the New Mutants are, at this point, they're the junior team of X-Men. And I could do a whole other podcast just based on the New Mutants. I love them. My favorite New Mutants are Sunspot, Mirage, Magic. I like Wolfsbane. It's just, I like Cannonball. I just love the New Mutants as well because they were a team of teen heroes. And I was a kid and I was like, oh, they're the younger versions of the X-Men. So previously, Viper, which is she's a terrorist. She specializes in espionage. She's associated with the with Hydra. She was a huge villain in the Captain America series. She's just a terrorist, and it goes after what she wants, and she wants it all. She's linked up with Silver Samurai in more ways than one, and they have just been terrorizing people all over the globe. So prior to them coming to Japan, they were actually terrorizing and had kidnapped one of the New Mutants. So I'm like, why is the Viper and Samurai, what beef do y'all have with the New Mutants? They're kids. But I won't go into that story because I will get off on a whole other tangent. But Viper and the Silver Samurai kidnap Danielle Moonstar, who is Mirage. And Mirage can create these 3D lifelike holograms of your greatest fear or your greatest desire. So they kidnapped her. The New Mutants had to go rescue her. During this time, at the end of this battle, is when Silver Samurai found out that Lord Shingen had got killed. So Silver Samurai and Viper are having like this intimate moment. They have Mirage locked up in this fortress, and Viper can tell that there's something wrong with him. And she goes, "What's wrong?" And he tells her, "Lord Shingen is dead." And she tells him, "I'm truly sorry. I know how much he meant to you." And she asks, "Will you be returning home to Japan to claim your inheritance?" And Silver Samurai loses it. He goes, "I have no inheritance. Shingen pledged that upon his death, I will become Lord of Clan Yashida, but my place has been usurped by his daughter, Mariko. And she's announced her marriage to that Gaijin, a foreigner, the X-Man Wolverine. I have no land, no name. I am nothing." And then Viper tells him, "You are my champion and my friend. When we finish our business here, I suggest we depart for Tokyo to claim what is rightfully yours. And should the Lady Mariko and her paramour object, then they will die." So the New Mutants break into the fortress and they have a battle with Silver Samurai and the Viper. And the New Mutant Karma, she gets the best of Viper. She has the ability to possess you, to take over your mind. So she possessed Viper and she made Viper point her gun at Silver Samurai. So Silver Samurai didn't have a choice but to take Viper out. And that broke the connection with Karma. And he ended up teleporting him and Viper out of there. So they're on a boat. And when Viper comes to, she tells him, "Look, I don't like loose ends. We're heading to Japan. Let's finish this up." And he goes, "At your command." So he blows the entire fortress up with the New Mutants in it. And so that's a whole other storyline. The X-Men have to come and kind of get involved in that. That's how Storm knows about Viper and Silver Samurai. And so the X-Men are sitting around and they're just trying to figure out why Viper and Silver Samurai are after them. And Colossus asks Wolverine, "Can this Lord Shingen person be stopped?" And Wolverine goes, "Already done, Petey, by me." And here goes little innocent Kitty. She's like, "Great, then we can question him in prison, right? And get all the answers we need." And Nightcrawler goes, "I do not think so, Catchin." And she goes, "What do you mean, Fuzzy Elf? Of course we can." Oh, I see. Kitty's a kid. She didn't realize when Wolverine said already taken care of, it was taken care of. And so Wolverine thinks, moments like this, I feel sorry for the kid. She cares for me, believes in me, but every so often she gets reminded hard that we come from two different worlds and that mine isn't very nice. So, like I said, Wolverine, he has a great heart, but he is a beast at nature. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does ain't very nice. And sometimes the people around him get hard reminders of that, like Kitty, especially she's the youngest member of the X-Men, so she probably takes that kind of stuff the hardest. She's new to this world. She's like 15. She's just coming to terms with everything that's going on. And so reality hits her hard sometimes, but she still loves Logan regardless. So then we cut to a scene of Lady Mariko. And Lady Mariko's taking a lot on her. She's in this little temple and she's thinking to herself, "In honor, Logan did what I would have done myself, face my father in single combat to the death. Shingen disgraced his name, his family. He deserved his fate. Would that his death brought an end to my nightmare? That would be the easy part." And so she takes out this letter and it says, "Meeting tonight, midnight, come alone. Harada," which is Silver Samurai, her half brother. She's thinking to herself, "I've told no one of this summons, especially not my beloved. I am the Lord of Clan Yashida. It falls to me to atone for my father's crimes." And then she bangs a little gong. And so Mariko's holding on to this. And she said, "It is a task I must accomplish alone." And then she turns to one of her handmaids, because y'all know Mariko got money. She got servants around the crib. She said, "I will be out for a while. Logan-sama and his guest are not to know." So Mariko is sneaking out to have this secret meeting that Silver Samurai has called her to, which, I mean, is a great idea in theory. But baby, you can't go meet two terrorists that specialize in espionage and crime like Silver Samurai and Viper alone when you literally have a whole team of X-Men sitting in your living room. But I guess maybe she thought that would make things even worse. So the maid goes and she goes into the kitchen. But before she can even make it into the kitchen, somebody punches her straight in the face. And she hits the ground. And then we see this big shot of Viper dragging the maid into the shadows. And she goes, bless you, Lady Mariko, for the noble fool that you are. Before this night is out, my champion, the Silver Samurai, will have either your abdication or your head. And once I am through here, the X-Men will be in no condition to save you or avenge you. So Viper goes into the kitchen, dresses up like the maid, and there's a pot of tea on the stove. She comes in, she bows down, she serves the X-Men the tea, and Wolverine is thinking someone else on the household staff does the serving. I don't know her, but that's no surprise. I haven't met most of Miko's people who work for her. So the X-Men are sitting around like really trying to contemplate what to do. And Viper, aka the maid, goes, will there be anything else, Logan-sama? And he goes, no thank you, Yoshi. If we need you, we'll call you. And he hands Aurora a cup of tea. He goes, have some tea, darling. It'll warm you up. And Storm goes, many thanks, Logan. These are lovely apartments. And then they just have some small talk. And Viper is in the back, kind of looking out of the corner of her eye like, come on, y'all, drink this tea. Drink this messy mutant tea. Because she done slipped a little something in the tea. Wolverine takes like a sip of the tea. But because of his enhanced senses, he's like, there's a strange aftertaste. The tea shouldn't have that aftertaste. It's so faint, I barely noticed it. And before he can realize what's going on, he grabs Storm's hand because she hasn't drank hers yet. He's like, Storm, don't drink that. It's poison. And he falls flat on the floor. And Storm looks around like, bless goddess, no. The whole team of X-Men has done fell out in the living room. Rogue is on the floor face down. Nightcrawler's face down on the couch. Kitty sprawled out. I don't know what the hell she put in that tea, but it knocked them out immediately. So now Storm is like, okay, I'm the only one left standing. Mariko is off to meet the Silver Samurai and Viper. I mean, Viper's still there at the apartment, but she's going to be at the meeting as well. So a car comes to pick her up. And Mariko gets in the car and she's like, please take me to this address. It's on the waterfront. And so the chauffeur says, certainly, milady, anything you say. Gotcha. And underneath the chauffeur's hat is our girl, Yukio, the wild one. She just can't stay out of these people's business. She has got to be around. So she plays the chauffeur and she's taking Lady Mariko to this waterfront to meet Silver Samurai and Viper to discuss who knows what she thinks they're going to discuss, but things ain't going to really go like she thought they would. So we have a little interim here, a little B story, which we're back in Alaska. And anytime during this time period we're in Alaska, we know that it deals with Scott and Madeline. So the captions goes, Anchorage International Airport, Alaska, home and headquarters of North Star Airlines. And that's Scott's grandparents' airlines. And so it says, in whose offices long after hours is Scott Summers, grandson of the boss, Storm's predecessor as leader of the X-Men. So Scott is sitting there going through some files, and his brother Alex comes in, who is the mutant Havoc. And Havoc can create these crazy plasma bursts. And so he goes, burning the midnight oil, big brother. And Scott goes, hi, Alex, what brings you here? And he said, funny, I was going to ask you the same thing. And Alex looks at the file cabinet and it's alphabetized. And so the personnel files between H and P, the drawers open. And Alex goes, whose files? Madeline's? And Scott goes, this is none of your business, Alex. And then Alex kind of loses it. He goes, Scott, Jean Grey is dead. Madeline bears an uncanny resemblance to her, but that's all. And Scott goes, I want to believe that, Alex, but things keep happening from the moment we met. She and I behaved like people who known each other immediately for years. On our first date, she offered to fix my favorite breakfast. When I asked how she knew what it was, she said, simple, I read minds. It's an expression, Scott. She could have found it out from Grandma. What about her crash? And then Alex just goes, Scott, you two are beautiful together. Why are you destroying it? And then Scott goes, I have to know the truth, Alex. Whatever the cost. Madeline was a sole survivor of a plane crash that not only crashed on the day that Jean died, but at the exact moment. And then we fade out of that and we're back in Tokyo. So Scott did have his clues all along about Madeline and her resemblance and similarities to Jean, and he did try his best to investigate it. So there's that. So we're back in Tokyo and we're at the piers. There's Lady Mariko's car at the piers, and she goes into this warehouse, this abandoned warehouse. And standing there is Silver Samurai and all his armor, Viper with her guns on her hips, and she goes, "Good evening, Lady Mariko." And there's a mediator there. He goes, "I am Nabatonya Kusei, my lady. I have been asked to arbitrate this conflict." And Mariko goes, "Even I have heard of the great Obayun of the Yakuza, the sole rival crime lord my father spared. However, my presence is solely out of the little respect owed to my half-brother as a sibling. Know, Harada-san, that I rule Clan Yashida and will do so till I die." And Silver Samurai is not trying to hear that shit. He said that can be arranged. And so the mediator goes, "Silence. Lady Mariko, your words are not helpful." And she goes, "They are not meant to be. I acknowledge no authority save the emperor. Your ruling means nothing." And Silver Samurai loses it. He's already on edge. He said, "I am Shingen's only son. He promised me the clan. It is mine by right." And Mariko goes, "You are a criminal like our father. You have dishonored our name, forfeited your heritage. Your claim is denied." And Silver Samurai takes out his sword and he says, "Gods curse you, woman. You signed your death warrant." And Mariko goes, "Yobayun, is this how you keep your word? I was guaranteed safe conduct." And Yobayun is sitting back and he goes, "I made my pledge to Lady Mariko. You are not she." And Silver Samurai goes, "What?" And Viper goes, "Who dares?" And and somebody rips the wig off and throws the shuriken. And it's Yukio. She was masquerading as Lady Mariko because she was like, "Baby, it ain't safe for you to go into this warehouse with these two criminals. So let me go and put this wig on and act like I'm you." And when I tell you, the shit hits the fan. And so Yukio goes, "How quickly some forget. We have unfinished business, Samurai." And then Viper goes, "I followed the limousine all the way here. Since it never stopped en route, Mariko must still be inside or nearby." And then Samurai goes, "Deal with her, Viper. The wild one is mine." And so Samurai swings his energy sword.
Ha!
And Yukio just hops right over it and kicks him straight in the face. But then he hits her with the sword, knocks her to the ground. She does a backflip and just escapes the sword coming down on her head. Then we switch to outside, and Viper is approaching Lady Mariko's car with her gun drawn. And then she goes, "A fog. I've never known one to rise so suddenly. The night was clear when we arrived. It's so thick I can barely see the car." Then she goes to the car and she opens the door. And she's like, "Step out, Lady Mariko. There's a good girl. Your gambit failed and it will cost your life." Then out of nowhere, this huge gust of wind comes. And slams Viper into a wall. And knocks her out. And then out steps Storm. And Storm goes, "The gambit was Yukio's and is thus proving most successful." And she goes, "She can't hear me. She's unconscious. She's lucky to be alive. My gust of wind was only meant to disarm her, but it blew out of control." So this is Storm slowly letting go of control and kind of just surrendering to her wild side. And then she gets Lady Mariko out of the back of the car and she goes, "Leave this place, Mariko, at once." And Mariko goes, "But Storm, what about you and Yukio?" And Storm goes, "We shall be fine. This is our sort of work. Use the car telephone to summon the police as Yukio did me." Okay, now Lady Mariko had a car phone back in the 80s. Come on now. Stacks on stacks on stacks. And then so Aurora takes off. And she tells Mariko, "Hurry. The longer you remain, the greater the danger." And then she goes, "Thank goodness I can still fly. What is wrong with me? Lately, I've been wielding my powers like a novice, and the harder I try to put things right, the worse they seem to get. And you know, that happens a lot when you're not being your true self, or you feel yourself being pushed to grow in one direction and you're trying to stay in that same old box. Things just won't go right because you're not in alignment with your true self. And that's what Storm is feeling. And so she blows out a window of the warehouse. And she sees Yukio and the Silver Samurai still fighting. The Silver Samurai is swinging his energy sword. And Yukio's ducking every pass. And Aurora goes, there's Yukio hard pressed by the samurai and loving every minute of it. She is mad. And she goes, physically, I'm no match for the samurai. If I am to save Yukio, I must risk to summon my lightning. And you know, Storm's powers are out of control. She's unsure of herself. She's unsure of who she is. And so her emotions link to the weather. So she's taking a risk calling this lightning down. So she calls lightning down. And Obayun is sitting back and he goes, splendid, mutant. You have done precisely what I expect of you. My trap is sprung. Your fate is sealed. And Storm is literally pumping lightning into Silver Samurai. And she goes, too much power. I cannot dampen it. I'm electrocuting him. I must draw the bolts back into myself. Because Storm really is all about preserving life. I mean, she's linked to nature, so she doesn't want to kill anyone unnecessarily. The situation with her and Callista was like she really didn't feel like they had a choice, so she had to do what she had to do. But in this case, it's a little different. And so she's losing control. She's like, no, I can't stop it. She literally can't stop the lightning. And Yukio, she's shielding her eyes because everything's so bright. And she's like, this wasn't part of our plan. Storm's in trouble. And so am I. She's flinging stray lightning bolts all over the warehouse. And then Yukio goes, whoops, explosives, tons of them, and Storm's setting them off. And she goes, that sound, it's Storm screaming. By all that's holy, what's happening to her? And this next panel is painfully beautiful. This is Storm just drawing all the lightning back into herself, and her body is just completely red and black, and her costume's being ripped off of her, and her hair's turned into lightning, like she is living lightning because she's drawing all of that power back into herself. Yukio goes, she's on fire. Her power is going wild. It's consuming her. She can't break the psychic circuit. Stop the lightning. And so Yukio goes, if I can reach her, maybe get her out of here, maybe that'll be good for her. So Yukio climbs up on these boxes. She takes the kimono that she had on when she was masquerading as Lady Mariko, and she jumps into the air to tackle Storm. And she goes, Mariko's kimono isn't much protection, but it's all I have. So she tackles Storm. She says, got her. And my momentum is carrying us towards the window. So they break out the window. And she goes, how convenient, we're over water. I wasn't sure. Now if we only hit before this entire mess. And then before she could even finish her sentence, the whole warehouse just goes up in a massive explosion. And Aurora and Yukio plop down into the water. And that snaps Storm out of it, and she just comes up to the surface. And she goes, Yukio, where is she? If it were not for her, I would be dead. And then Storm looks out over the horizon, And she looks out over the burning warehouse and sees the image of the phoenix bird in the flames. And she just goes, "Merciful goddess, it cannot be. I was hallucinating. What I saw could not exist." And then Yukio's pulling herself out of the river, and she goes, "Some fireworks, especially that bird image. You do that?" And Storm is thinking, she goes, "I wish I had. The X-Men believe Phoenix destroyed long ago, but can such an entity as she truly die?" And she thinks to herself, she goes, "Does this manifestation mean she has somehow restored herself?" And so she shakes that thought off, and she looks at Yukio and she goes, "I suppose to you, this was simply another good time?" And Yukio goes, "The best." And Storm looks at her and she goes, "I envy you in your madness, Yukio. It's a luxury denied me ever since my powers first appeared. My safety and that of those around me require an inner serenity, an absolute harmony with the world, with life itself. I have lately lost." And then Yukio goes, "Is that why things went crazy in the warehouse?" And Storm goes, "I hope so." And she thinks to herself, "For the death of my soul is infinitely preferable to the alternative." And then they go on their way. They're limping and they go off into the distance. And out of the flames, you see the shadow of the Silver Samurai. And he emerges from the flames and he goes, "I live. The Wind Witch and the Wild One did their worst, yet through some miracle, I survived. But what of Viper and Nabaton-san? The blast laid waste to the entire dockyard." And he goes to the edge of the pier and he sees Viper pulling herself up on the dock like, and he goes, "Ha, whatever the old man's fate, Viper's fabled luck still holds." And he goes, "Run, women, hide as best as you can, for my death mark is upon you. When I finish with my half-sister, it will be your turn." And then Storm and Yukio are making their ways through the alleyways of Tokyo. And Storm is thinking, she goes, "What was that? I thought I heard laughter. Have I lost my wits as well? To believe the winds themselves mock me, that the very night air has turned evil?" And she looks at Yukio. She goes, "Where are we going, Yukio? We must warn the others of what we saw." And Yukio goes, "It'll have to wait. Neither one of us are in any shape to travel or fight. We need a place to rest." But unbeknownst to them, watching them the whole time is the Obayun, the mediator that was at the meeting at the warehouse with Viper and Silver Samurai. So I wonder why he's watching them. Remember I told you this wedding was packed full of unexpected guests looking to crash this wedding. So just keep that in mind, because everybody is not who they seem. So then we cut to a scene at the hospital and we hear Logan's internal dialogue. And he goes, "I hate hospitals. Seen too much of them. The others are critical. If they survive the night, they'll pull through. The doc says that's a big if. I can't wait. My body started healing itself the instant I swallowed Viper's poison. I'm sick as a dog, but I'm on my feet." And then we see the inside of the hospital and it goes, "Thanks to Mariko, we've got the intensive care ward to ourselves, plus an ace team of Secret Service agents for protection." And you see guards all around the ward with their guns and their badges, manning the doors so no one can get in. And we see inside one of the hospital rooms, and it's Logan putting on his costume, and Mariko's there, and Lockheed's curled up in the corner. And so Logan goes, "They'll look after you and the X-Men while I'm gone." And then Mariko goes, "I will not permit this, Logan. You are too ill. It is suicide." And Logan says, "If the samurai isn't stopped, he'll try again. More innocent people might get hurt. You want that, darling?" And he takes Mariko's face in his hands and he looks in her eyes and he goes, "Besides, Miko, my love, how are you going to stop me?" And then out of the corner comes Rogue. And she goes, "I'm coming with you, Wolverine." He looks at her like, "The heck you are." She goes, "I'm an X-Man, mister. Xavier said so." And Logan goes, "Work with him then, kiddo, not me." And she goes, "How am I supposed to prove myself if none of you all will give me a chance to, huh?" And he goes, "What about the poison?" She said, "I'm half alien, remember? It wasn't so effective on me." Considering our condition and what the stakes are, you need backup. And Logan goes, makes sense, much as I wish it didn't. So he flings open the doors and he goes, but you follow my lead, youngster, my orders, every flaming step of the way. So now we got Rogue, we got Wolverine, about to hit the streets of Tokyo to hunt down the Silver Samurai and Viper. We got the X-Men, will they recover? Where is Yukio? Where is Storm? What's this big change that's going to go on for Storm? How does meeting Yukio affect the rest of her path going forward? Tune in next time to the Messy Mutant Tea to find out all the answers. I hate to leave y'all on a cliffhanger, but every good thing has to come to an end. So tune in next time where we take a look at Uncanny X-Men 173, the second half of Wolverine's Wedding, the Japan Adventure, or again, as I like to call this arc, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, because we still haven't seen all of the surprise guests that are looking to crash this wedding. So stay tuned for the next episode, and I hope to see you there. Peace.
It's the messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDD. Let's go. It's the messy mutant tea with OMEGAREDD. Let's go.